Okay, welcome to the last Cinder meeting of yoga. The 20.0.0 Cinder was cut, I don't know, sometime within the last 24 hours, and I don't know if the coordinated release has happened yet or not, but it's imminent. So let me say that again. All right, so we're done with yoga except for all the bug fixes and stuff that we will be backporting. Um, so hooray. Uh, Let me give you a link to the Etherpad. All right, I'm gonna. Okay. Um, all right, so announcements. Um, we had the yoga release. All right, so the Zed PTG is next week, as you know. And I think you saw Rajat's email. Oh, I'm going to give Rajat a chance to talk about this in the regular topics. What was the? Oh, right. So what I wanted to say about the PTG is Monday is open for cross-project stuff. And the key thing that's happening is the this TikTok cadence stuff. Gorka's already posted some updates to the database docs and something else that takes this into account. But I'd like everybody to get on board with this because it's just so we're all clear on exactly what's going on. So Dan Smith will be giving a presentation on this on Monday. I don't know the exact time, but let me give you the link to the PC Etherpad. All right, let me just type what I said. Sorry, IRC. I would. To learn about you. All right, so okay, so I imagine as we get closer, there'll be like a more specific time put on that Etherpad. I'll send an email out, I guess, on Monday maybe, or as soon as I know something. It says PTL, but I explicitly checked it's for all community leaders, so that would be core members and anybody else in Cinder who is interested in this. So I'd really like the cores to attend, but anybody else should go also who's interested. Okay, and then I was talking with I know his IRC Nick, but I don't know his actual name. So this guy from DataCore, who's setting up their CI, is interested in organizing a third-party CI group. I know we had one like a long time ago, before I was even involved in Cinder. So I'm just going to float the idea. We can talk about it during the driver's day next week. But I wanted to get an initial idea. I mean, the main thing is if nobody's interested in doing it, then he doesn't need to waste his time. But I imagine it might be a useful thing. So let me put this in here.
So it's a group specific for third-party CI vendors to like help each other with CI stuff and other things.
Yeah, it's basically whatever they're interested in doing. I mean, it could be a lobbying group to force Cinder to make certain design decisions. I don't know, but I think it's probably a good way to get more people involved. Um, so we'll see what happens. So anyway, so I told him I just float the idea here and see if any driver maintainers are around and could express like interest or like hatred for this idea. Um, Otherwise, he'll float something to the mailing list. And I reminded him about Driver's Day on Wednesday at the PTG. So let me update this. So he will send out. So it's completely amorphous right now as to what it would do. He just said, is there a drivers group? And I said, currently there's not, but if you want to organize one, that's a great idea. So what they would do and all that is like completely up in the air. So it would be a self-organizing team. So all right, so we'll just see. And that's all I've got for announcements. I know I forgot something, but whatever. Okay. All right, next topic. All right, the next festival of reviews. So Toski noticed that the next festival reviews is on a holiday and for almost everybody working on Cinder. So probably we don't want to do it then. So ordinarily, I don't like moving these things because it's good to have like a cadence. But I mean, if nobody's going to be there, it's kind of pointless to have it. So we should probably move this. And this will shortly not be my concern anymore. So Rajat, why don't you float the idea of when you would like to move it and then how we would decide?
Yeah, so I was thinking it would be better on the fourth week because the second week would be so I think it would be better to do it on a Friday, else it would conflict with other meetings people might have. And again, the second week would be much closer to the PTG. So the first week we have PTG on 8th, and the second week 15th would be much closer. I don't think it affects it much, but maybe or maybe not people will be there or not. So I was thinking about 29th, which is the fourth week. But yeah, if it still conflicts with other things, like people have something scheduled there and they can let me know or have any other suggestions.
All right, so just technically the 29th is going to be the fifth week. And there are 5 Fridays in April. It's a weird month this year. So, okay, but let's propose the 29th is fine because then there'll be a couple of weeks before the next one. So let's float it, and then Rajat, you can take this up at the PTG during the Cinder business stuff. So let me just, okay, suggest 29 April. Okay. So check your calendars. We will decide at the PTG. Okay, thanks. I think it makes a lot of sense to keep it on a Friday, just because, yeah, the meetings get crazy otherwise. Okay, anything else about that? Oh yeah, one other thing. The is mergeable predicate is now available again in Garrett. So I updated the dashboard for the review festival to include that. So yippee. I also updated the dashboard. So now it's got 3 sections. It's got the extra small reviews at the top, the documentation in the middle, and then slightly larger reviews at the bottom. On the theory, that if we do a lot of small review, we might run out of reviews to do during a review festival. So I don't know how likely that is because the way I have the dashboard set up, as soon as you review something, it doesn't show up anymore. So my list when I was doing this was pretty small of extra small reviews, but that may have been because I had just done a bunch of reviews. So I don't know. So anyway, you know, it's available, and then Rajat can change this thing as necessary as we continue. Okay. All right. So next item is the PTG schedule. Rajat can tell us about that. Let me type this in first, though.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Brian. So, as everyone might be aware, as of now, we have the PTG next week, and the Cinder PTG specifically from Tuesday till Friday. And if anyone hasn't registered, which I think most of us have, they can register. I have sent out the mail consisting the link of the Eventbrite site for registration. And so I've also sent out the schedule for the PTG. So Brian and Walter had a very tight schedule. They're only available on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I have kept most of their topics on these 2 days and shifted other topics. And I have arranged it quite like that. But if again anyone has any conflict, then they can let me know. If the timing doesn't suit or it is not comfortable to discuss at that time, so they can let me know. But as per myself, I think this is the finalized schedule. So yeah, people can go through it.
I'm just typing what you said in the IRC. Okay, looks like you know, a bunch of interesting stuff. So hopefully we'll have a good productive PTG, and then maybe the next one will actually see each other in person, which would be even nicer. Okay, any questions or anything? So please make sure you register because it gives the foundation a count. But I think that's it. And then you've got a link to the Etherpad, so the connection information for the video will be on there, and everything else. So, okay. All right. All right. So I got a quick thing about the community goal that keeps going and going. So it's been a community goal for a few cycles now, and will be for a few more. Okay, so started some work on this. So one thing is that we're expanding the number of personas that will be available by default when you install Cinder. So we've got to make sure we got the policies correct for them. The complication that came up last time is that the community decided that we needed to split off the administrator into two distinct personas. One that will be in charge of the Cinder system, so the services, the clusters, workers, those kind of APIs. And then somebody who would be in charge of like assisting customers, basically. So someone who could migrate volumes, reset state on a volume, stuff like that. So there's a distinction between a system admin and a project admin. So it's explained at the top of this document that I didn't give you a link to yet. All right, so here's the review. And if you want to look at it in HTML, which I suggest because it's hard to read otherwise. Oops, I did topic instead of link. Oh well. Sorry, I lost my place. Oh, here. Oh, okay. No, here's what I want to give you a link to. So I set up this Etherpad. All right, so let's we'll see how this works. So, right, this thing's a monster to review, so I don't expect, well, it'd be great for people to read through it and make sure it makes sense, but I think it may also make sense to split it up, right? Because if you don't know, we need to review the whole thing as a community, but not everybody has to review every single piece except the people who are interested in that. So one way to get brownie points if you want to get your stuff reviewed is to make sure your name shows up here. So what I've done is the document is broken up into sections that roughly correspond to our API reference. So that's what's here as bullet points in this list. So what I'd like people to do, because here's what's going to be happening, right? I'll be revising this as people find problems with it. But then stuff that didn't have problems, right? All the votes disappear and we got to start over again. So we don't want to do that. So what we'll do is keep track of stuff on this Etherpad. So when you reviewed something, put yourself down here. I have 2 spots for 2 reviewers. We can have more. So, right, if they're already, anyway, just work with this. And then we can at least mark here which sections have been reviewed by people and approved, even as the main document is getting updated. So feel free to grab a section and just look it over. Some of these are short, some of these are longer, just depending on how many API calls there are. Key thing to do, as it says at the top of this Etherpad, is please read the 2 sections that explain the personas and what they're supposed to be able to do, because you need to understand that in order to check to make sure they're doing the right thing. What should I say? I'm fairly confident that this is accurate, but given a document of this size, I'm also 100% sure there's at least one bad typo, right? So that's why we need people to review it. So I put a couple of hints in the commit message. So the main thing is that the project, there should be no cases where this project manager dude can do something that the project admin cannot. So that's just a quick check to make sure I didn't transpose something by mistake. And there was one other hint that I don't remember now that I mentioned. So please take a look at that. But anyway, if people could start reviewing this, the importance of this document is that it explains to operators what the default permissions do and what they allow so that they can easily see that instead of trying to go through the generating the config file and trying to look at it. And it also gives us a way to know whether our tests are accurate or not. So it's important that this document be correct. Any questions about that? So thanks in advance. I guess I should put a link to this Etherpad on the review. But anyway, this gives us a way to, what I don't want is like everybody to do just one section at the same time and find out that we're all duplicating efforts. So we'll see if this works with this Etherpad. And I haven't typed any of that into the IRC. Use the Etherpad to help organize reviews. And there'll be plenty of other stuff to review, but we'll talk about that at the PTG. Okay. All right. Actually, let's do the retrospective last. So, Sophia, did you want to say something about the high importance bugs?
Hey, I don't know if you can, because my blue jean is kind of freezing.
Oh, okay.
But
We can
I'm gonna
hear
do
you.
my best.
Okay.
Okay, it's really quick. Yesterday we were talking about this with Eric, and as you can see in Launchpad, there is a few high importance bugs that are really old and nobody's working on them. So basically the idea is to pick one every week and see if we are going to fix it or to have comments on it or update it somehow. We can use the beginning of the back meeting to accomplish this. And maybe we can start after the PTG. Let me write something in our IRC. Oh yeah, you're doing it. Thank you, Brian.
That's okay. We're still...
So that's the proposal, and I will try to pick one or the back meeting after the PTG.
All right, that sounds like a good idea.
Out of curiosity, what bugs do we currently have of high importance?
Oh,
I'm wondering, yeah, just an example
okay.
we currently have.
Let me search for it very quick.
Oh no, if you don't know from the top of your head, I can look it up, don't worry.
I can share it on the Cinder channel after the meeting because I don't have
Okay.
anything marked down, but there is a couple.
All right, thanks, Sophia. That's a good idea because, you know, we got to keep motoring on through these things.
Sure,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, and then Ganso's got some requests for backport reviews, so stable cores. Okay, so I'm just gonna slap those in there, and then I guess I should look what it is first. I'll just have to look. All right, let me get back to All right, so stable cores, please. Need to do that. Okay. All right. All right, I just got to the wrong Etherpad. All right, let me. All right, so all right, topic. All right, so we might as well do this the old-fashioned way, which would be to use an Etherpad. Let me give you a link. And here. Okay, so. All right, so the response to this was overwhelming. So I got like 2 or 3 responses. Anyway, they're there. I'm pointing to the other laptop. Okay. So let's take a look at this and a few things we can talk about. All right, what is the Cinder team doing well? I got some blanks and okay. So that's good. We're okay. As far as what the Cinder team should start doing, more enterprise grade volume functionality. which I'm not quite sure exactly what. So if anyone has ideas on exactly, somebody had brought up, it was 2 PTGs ago, I believe, right? A product manager from NetApp showed up and said, how do we make decisions about features? And I said, you show up and you propose them. And he said, how do you know like what's going on in enterprises and with current technology developments? And I said, well, we rely on people who are up to date on that to like come and tell us. So he had proposed, well, he didn't propose. I proposed that he organize like a, occasional video session where he could just say, hey, this is what's going on in the world of storage that we should start to be aware of. Or here's a key functionality that you can get in some other clouds, but you don't have in OpenStack. Because those would be kind of cool to know. But it never happened. So anyway, I guess my point is, I think we're all excited about enterprise grade volume functionality, but it would be good to know specific things. So if anybody here has an idea, please add it to the Etherpad or just shout it out. Because I guess we should look at the next one too. So we got the more enterprise grade stuff, and what we should stop doing is old and unwanted stuff that end users don't need, which we're probably all in favor of that too.
But what does that even mean?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Right.
It also seems very big.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think next time the forum needs to say, and please provide examples, concrete examples, to avoid.
Yeah.
Because probably they have some ideas in their head about what they mean, but now we have no way to do anything about this.
Yeah. So, and I can't think of stuff that's, well, anyway, yeah. So, okay. So at least somebody feels like we're not, I don't know what we're doing. All right. So anyway, right. It would be good to have better advanced examples. And then the general comments, right. More enterprise grade support. So if we can figure out exactly what that means, that'll be helpful.
Yeah. And I think part of the problem we may have is with access to that specific enterprise grade volume.
Yeah.
That, for example, if somebody wants to work on something fancy, they need to have the hardware. And the only people that have the hardware are the vendors.
Yeah.
So unless they are willing to work on it, or they give access to the hardware, it's difficult to add even more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say my concern is what this really might translate to is they want Cinder to expose access to enterprise-grade features in their back end. And most hardware vendors, have kind of like their own spin on a particular enterprise feature. So we'll have to be very careful to make sure that anything that we do in Cinder is generalized enough so that it's not, oriented directly for a specific back-end vendor who happens to be the guy or person who developed the feature.
Yeah, and I think this goes in line with something Eric has been trying to get, which is the backend capabilities reporting in a way that it's actually useful for operators. Right. And that probably would help a lot with this.
Yeah, I looked briefly at some backend capabilities a while ago myself, and I was kind of stunned to see that a lot of the capabilities are like they have the vendor's driver name woven into the capability. which kind of defeats the purpose for making it general purpose.
Okay. Okay. The other comment there is the Cinder team needs more core reviewers. The current core team is heavily loaded. And I believe all members of the current core team would agree with that 100%. So
I think that's correct, but also at the same time, we need more reviewers, more people that provide quality feedback on patches to be added to the core team and possess the knowledge that is required for that. So it is like it goes both ways.
yeah, so let me, maybe this will be the last time I ever say this. So the key thing, right, I'm looking at Gorka, like, who's the last person who needs to hear this. But the main thing, actually, everybody I'm looking at in blue jeans does not need to hear this. But in general, right, don't just +1 something, because that's not very useful. And it's, all right, so what I proposed, when I said that on the mailing list a couple of years ago, I got kind of shot down. So I'll say it this way. A +1 might be useful in some contexts, but in terms of identifying people who would be good core reviewers, it's not very helpful, because what we're looking for is we want to see somebody who's thoughtful, has a good understanding of what they're looking at, even if they don't understand the entire code base yet. So, right, with -1s, people are usually pretty good about saying what they found that's a problem. What's really helpful and what can turn you into a core reviewer is when you do a +1, say, right, what you've looked at, what you reviewed, what's good about this, what you didn't get to look at, right? So if you didn't download it and run it, you can say that. If you only looked at part of it because you ran out of time, that's fine, but just say it, and then that helps everybody else who follows up. On this topic, by the way, well, maybe this is a different topic. I came across a thing yesterday when I was reviewing something, or maybe it was the day before, but where MyPy was like really, really helpful. And it was, sometimes we pass around, well, we have these variables that are just called volume, right? And sometimes it's a volume object, sometimes it's a volume name, sometimes it's a volume ID. It could be anything. And, you look at it and you say, all right, what is this? And then you have to trace back, all right, who called this function? What did they pass in? Somebody passed it to them, so I got to keep going back. But I was able to stop because I looked at the function signature and it said that it was a volume object. It was like, I know that this is a volume object. I don't need to look anymore because MyPy has already checked this out. So I just want to say that it's already paying off. At least it saved me like a bunch of time the other day, and I was really happy about that. So let's try to continue reviewing the MyPy patches. Thanks to Eric for being patient and rebasing this stuff over the last 2 years. Let's try to get it done. So that had nothing to do with the retrospective, but it was something I noticed when I was reviewing things. Okay, so but the general point to people who aren't core reviewers yet, right? Please do thorough reviews, and that helps everybody. Okay, and then I asked some specific driver-related questions. So thought one good thing to share: feedback and code reviews are helpful. Community members are open to receive suggestions. So that's nice. So at least we're doing a good job some of the time. All right, so what should we start doing? Right, one person pointed out that most of the core team works in USA time, and so that's when we tend to be present in IRC and or around to discuss things. So we need participation from other regions as well. So that's a two-way street, right? So if we get more people participating who are in other time zones, then there'll be more people around to answer questions. Or Rajat may have some ideas about how we could try to cover more time zones.
I think we already have one example where the Cinder meeting used to happen like 2 hours later from the current time, and I think Brian sent out a mail asking for like time preferences, and at least I replied to that, like I would prefer it earlier. And some people from like China and Japan have it at a much worse time at like 12 a.m. So yeah, at that moment I think there were more participation from that regions. But yeah, this is a good topic we can think through. And as Brian said, like if people start participating from other regions, then we can think about it a little more.
Yeah. All right, good. So that was some feedback. Oh, sorry.
Maybe it would help people knowing our different time zones, so that they know that yeah, they cannot ping Brian, Eric, Alan, Sophia at specific times, and they have to go to Rajat, Luigi, whomever. Yep. So the off times, yeah.
Yeah, so I had that timezone.io thing for the Cinder team at one point, but I stopped using it because I sort of know where everybody is. So I don't know whether that would be helpful to make public or whether we could have an Etherpad. Rajat, you can come up with some kind of idea for, but you're right, Gorka, it might be good just to have a better idea of who's available when. Might be helpful. I guess it could help us identify gaps in our coverage.
Well, I was not going that far. It's just that, like you said, when you already know it, you don't have to look for things. But somebody probably that is saying this, they don't know who to ping. When they go there, they notice that people just don't respond at some times, and they have no idea if, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's nothing we are going to do about the gaps. If there is a gap, sorry, there is a gap. I'm not going to wake up 3 hours earlier just to fill in your gap, sorry.
All right. Okay. All right, so let's
Brian, I think you need to scroll the other Etherpad as well, like it's still showing the top half.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, great. And then and someone said they'd like to suggest creation of some kind of routine to review patches because some patches are open for a long time and we need to keep asking for reviews, which I believe is quite annoying for both the patch owner and the reviewers. Otherwise, they will not be merged. Yeah, I mean, so we do have like the festival of extra small ones. And the idea behind that was that at least we can get them reviewed and merged in a 2-hour period because that's reasonable. Once you get to larger patches, it's harder to say how long it's going to take to review. But I guess I would just throw that out there as something to think about if somebody has an idea of another way to do this. We do have the Cinder dashboard, so you can look and you get to see I don't know. Every so often I'll review a patch and then I forget to go back to it and find out it's been sitting for a month or two and somebody's made the change I requested, and I always feel bad. Um, but I don't know that I have a specific suggestion for getting around that.
One useful thing to do that I try to do every now and then, not too often, but if you're looking for stuff to review, just go look for patches that have been sitting there for 3 or 6 months without being touched, and sometimes you'll be surprised that you'll find that some of them are things that we probably really should have looked at.
Yeah, I agree, and that's sort of the way
Yeah, I was gonna say we need to have some kind of path to do this every now and then, kind of like the extra small review festival thing, because if you don't, things kind of just float off somewhere, and it's really not good for any of us when that happens.
I answered the form, but I was mentioning that in Manila we have something like a collab review where they pick a large patch, review it with like the Cinder, but with large ones and
So you've kind of broken up. Was that Fabio?
Yeah, but I think it at least to me the message got through. It's basically like the extra small patches review, but instead of for small patches, we do it for a large one, and we do it kind of collaborative, connected. We review it, and if somebody's reviewing it, has a question, it may ask it out loud, and somebody else replies, "Oh, that is doing that thing," so that we can get through it, and the submitter can probably answer questions faster and everything. I think that's what Manila is doing in some cases.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember one time we did that in person with the Oslo team when PrivSep, I think Eric was there as well, when PrivSep was serializing things, and there was a patch to make it non-serial so that it can process things in parallel. They were doing their review there, and we were also in the room helping, and it was really fast and effective. So, yep, sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
Thanks, Fabio.
Any other?
So for large patches, are we talking about only features, or are there other things that contribute to large patches? Because for features, I think we keep track of them for the milestone 2, the feature freeze, and we don't have a collaborative review, but we make sure like we are up to date with all the patches and get them merged on time.
Well, I think the main point is, regardless of the size of the patch, if there's one that's been sitting around for months, we have to have some kind of response to it. And that could be reviewing it to merge it, or it could be looking at it and asking for, specs, blueprints, kind of planning stuff, discussion, whatever. But, the main thing is that we need to just not let them sit there.
Could be something similar to what Sophia is currently doing with the bugs, kind of a triage of, this patch has been sitting here, nobody has looked at it. We need to look at it and acknowledge that it exists, that we have at least read about it. Yep.
All right, so we could see if anyone wants to volunteer to be a patches czar and do a patches meeting sort of like Sophia's. I like the way Sophia's been running the bug squad because the meetings are quick. You get a summary on the email, which is helpful if you can't make the meeting. And I think it has been getting us looking at bugs faster, which is great. So we could try something similar with reviews if someone were so inclined. That's something to think about.
Help. Yeah, I can do that. Like a patch star, checking really all patches if they're relevant and discuss them. I don't know when, though. Like,
No, and I was about to say the same thing for you personally, right? Because I think looking at all those bugs takes a lot of time, and you also have a job. So it would be good to, I mean, if you want to do the patches thing, we can find a new bug person maybe. I don't know if it's a good idea to do both, but that's really up to you. And this is my last day as Cinder PTL, so I will just express my opinion and leave it there.
I can tell you are really, really glad about it.
Well, I'm gonna, move on. I'm very glad Rajat has this opportunity. Okay, so those are some good ideas. So we can think about them. We've got the PTG. We'll be together next week, so we'll have opportunities to, come up with some ideas and run them by each other. Okay. All right, good. So I got no responses for what Cinder should stop doing with respect to drivers. So that's good. So at least we're not completely alienating people. And then the last general comment sorry, that you can see there is concern about review patches if the owner has reviewed other patches. Okay, so the idea is maybe we should take into account team effort and not individual people as a criteria for prioritizing reviews. I'm okay with that. I mean, I will confess, right? I think this is probably not a secret to anybody, right? I say that all the time, but, I sort of spot check. If somebody's been reviewing, you sort of know from looking at reviews who's doing them and who's not, right? So I don't know that I've held, I think this is fine, right? If Dell says, hey, our team has done 8 reviews, can you review this patch? I'm okay with that. So I don't know. So I guess the thing is, do we want to formalize this some way, or I wish there was something we could, maybe there's a way you can do a Garrett. I don't know. Anyway, just throwing that out there. So it was an observation someone had. So I guess what I was saying in stating this requirement that I don't want, well, it was actually, that was my personal thing. It wasn't really a team policy, was it? I don't know. Anyway, I think each of us can have our own policy that, right, if somebody bugs me and says, hey man, review this patch, I will say to them, which patches have you reviewed? And I think that's perfectly okay. So I don't know that, I guess I'd have to look back. I don't know that this is an actual Cinder policy as much as general advice that to get reviews, you need to do reviews.
Yeah, but I think it's not only that policy. Basically, like telling people, hey, you have to talk more with me. It's like, I don't have to if you make it hard for me to do it. So if I'm doing a review and whenever I write a comment, somebody doesn't answer me right or ignores my comments constantly, I keep saying, fix this. This is not nice. Is this okay? And they ignore me. Of course, I'm less willing to keep reviewing their patches. It's not that I don't want to. It's that if you're going to ignore, I can talk with my walls here, so it's fine. That kind of thing. So, of course, if somebody writes excellent code with good comments, good tests, yeah, I'm probably more likely to read their code because it's easier and I can do it faster, and I don't have to do a lot of context switching in my head to figure out how the driver works or whatever. So I think it's natural. Like you say, in your case, you look at the reviews. In some other cases, reviewers look at maybe other things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their area of expertise, how comfortable they are with the area they are modifying in the patch. So I think there is no general rule on.
All right. Let me put a little response here, just so.
Yeah, I don't think we have officially mentioned that anywhere, but I tend to agree with Brian. Like, you should be doing some reviews. Like, I agree with that, and I also tell people the same thing. Not only the quantity, but also the quality of it. And I don't have any issues with like this team effort, but as long as we get good amount of reviews and good quality of reviews, we can give this also a test for some time and see how well it goes.
Okay.
But in any case, I think it makes sense what it's stated there of the team effort being considered when reviewing code. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Any other general comments? So anyway, that was the feedback that I've received. So. Anything anyone wants to say about yoga, the yoga cycle, or anything, or?
So I just want to say one thing. Like, it is a general thing. So, like, as we know, it is Brian's last day, as he already mentioned, as Cinder's PTL. Just want to thank him for all his contribution as PTL. Yeah, thanks for everything.
You're welcome.
Hear, hear.
So my plan is to focus on the secure RBAC community goal and Stephen Finucane's database patches. And John Bernard's working on the C Group V1 thing, or migration to using C Group V2. What else? Gorka's working on a whole bunch of NVMe stuff. So that's good. And then
it's mostly completed, though I just realized that after a bunch of patches in in Cinder and OSBreak, I realized I didn't add any NumPy notation. MyPy, sorry. Yeah, so I'll have to go through it and kind of do it.
Well, it does pay off. So it's, as we get in the habit, it'll be better. Right. Okay. Well, we got 2 minutes left. So thanks, everyone. And looking forward to the PTG. link is on the Etherpad. Please make sure you register. Right, so Monday, please go to the TC thing to learn about the TikTok cadence. And then Rajat's got the schedule up. He sent out an email and links on the Etherpad, so please check it out. And we'll see you next week. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.